Times now, Stephen, to no one's great surprise, the noble lie is still being lived by the BBC for fear of looking mean.
BBC journalists fear being called racist in migration reports. The claim is these journalists have been shying away from covering certain details of stories, covering certain stories, because they don't want to be called racist for airing a certain view on air. And you'd think that they might have lived long enough to realise you're going to get called racist anyway. Have you seen the world in which we live? Maths is racist, the countryside is racist, like spelling's probably racist. There is if that's racist, you ain't going to get away from the accusation.
Don't you feel, though, it's actually been quite encouraging, actually, in a way, since the trouble broke out in the Middle East last October, that there are different kinds of racism, because all the racism was basically we were the racist, right? White men were the racist. But now there's a kind of internecine racism going on within newsrooms where it's a little bit less obvious which way it can go.
People still think you're a racist.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Somehow you've still done it. But so they've done this report, and I thought this is the thing that's got to annoy probably Simon, but I'm going to say it. They've really highlighted the bigger issue here, because yes, you can have your argument about how biased the BBC is, and it will also be true that people's confirmation bias means anything they say that bias that agrees with you, you don't notice. The bias that disagrees with you, you definitely notice. The bigger problem is the fact that they have the fear. It's the same fear that happens where, like, I don't want to report this crime for fear of being racist. If you're a journalist, your duty is to the facts and the truth, rather than the, better keep my head down. They also say that people have a fear of being called the wokerati by the right. That small boat sailed. You work for the BBC. Literally, you won't be able to win.
No, they have no option there. I mentioned The Noble Lie, though. That was the book. I think his name was Robin Aitken, something like that. He used to work for the newsroom, and he published this at least 10 years ago, maybe 15. I think he's been on here saying that this is what happens in the newsroom. It's not that they tell lies. They call it The Noble Lie because, like Plato, right? You know, for the good of the people. But they don't tell lies within broadcasting. It's simply, where is your searchlight looking, you know? And if you find, if two crimes have been committed of roughly equal degree of severity, but one of them is committed by an illegal immigrant, the other one is committed by a white football hooligan, then you know very quickly which one's going to get reported on.
Yeah, and people are losing all trust in media institutions, or the legacy institutions. And, you know, the whole point of a tax-funded news corporation like the BBC is that they should be doing it without fear or favour, and they should be brave. They're not advertisers aren't going to go, oh, we're going to pull your adverts. We're going to pull adverts because you reported on this crime by an illegal immigrant. So, I mean, I think this is why we need GB News, because GB News isn't afraid to report on, you know, without fear or favour, you know, on anywhere in society.
Absolutely, and maybe the BBC could pay us a bit of money for doing that part of their job. Anyway.